All right, let's get started. Today, we are going to be going on a deep dive into some really cool breast cancer research
Okay.
from Tehran University of Medical Sciences.
Sounds good.
And we're going to be talking about a marker called Ki67. And you know what's really interesting about this is it could help predict how aggressive a cancer might be.
Yeah.
If you can imagine having that kind of insight early on, that could be a real game changer.
Oh, absolutely. It really could. So Ki67 is a protein that's found in cells that are actively dividing and growing.
Okay.
You can kind of think of it like a gauge on a car's dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
It tells us how fast those cells are multiplying.
Gotcha.
And a high reading on that gauge often means a more aggressive tumor.
Okay, so it's like a cellular growth spurt indicator.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But you know what's fascinating to me about this Tehran study
Yeah.
is they didn't just look at Ki67 in isolation. They factored in a whole bunch of other variables, like age, tumor size, whether it had spread to the lymph nodes, and even how the cells looked under a microscope.
Exactly. And they didn't stop there. They also looked at the status of other key receptors,
Okay.
like the estrogen and progesterone receptors.
Okay.
These tell us if the tumor relies on hormones for growth.
Interesting.
Plus, they even looked at HER2, another marker that's associated with aggressive growth, and P53, which is a gene that acts like the brakes on cell division.
Gotcha.
So if P53 isn't working properly,
Yeah.
cells can multiply uncontrollably.
So it's like they were trying to put together this whole puzzle,
Yeah.
looking at Ki67 alongside all of these other pieces of information.
Exactly.
To try to get a clearer picture of the cancer's behavior. I mean, that's got to be incredibly valuable for making treatment decisions.
Absolutely. One of the key findings was that higher Ki67 levels were linked to more lymph node involvement,
Okay.
which can indicate that the cancer is spread. They also found a connection between high Ki67 and HER2 positive status, both pointing towards potentially more aggressive tumors.
But wasn't there also something kind of surprising about the findings?
Yes.
I mean, I would think that tumor size would be a pretty big factor in how aggressive a cancer is.
You would think so, right. But this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The study found no clear link between Ki67 and tumor size.
Really?
It also showed no significant correlation with something called histological grade,
Okay.
which is a measure of how abnormal the cells look.
Huh.
This means that a small tumor with high Ki67 could potentially be more aggressive
Wow.
than a larger one with a low Ki67.
That goes against some of the common assumptions, right?
It completely does.
Yeah.
We're kind of used to thinking bigger problem, bigger worry.
Right.
But this study is suggesting that it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
So even though a high Ki67 generally seems to point towards more aggressive cancers,
Yeah.
it seems like there are other pieces of this puzzle that we're still figuring out.
Hmm.
You've hit the nail on the head. This is why continued research in this area is so crucial. We need to understand how all these factors interact to get the most accurate picture of each individual's cancer.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And this is where the Tehran study really kind of dug deep and found some interesting connections.
Okay.
They found that lower Ki67 levels were more common in older patients.
Huh. So is that like typical of what's seen in other studies, or was that kind of a curveball?
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't automatically think that age would have that kind of inverse relationship
Yeah.
with a marker for aggressive growth.
It's a good question. It really highlights how much we're still learning about these complex interactions. The Tehran study also found that lower Ki67 levels were associated with being ER positive and PR positive.
Okay, so if a tumor is fueled by hormones, it tends to grow more slowly. I guess that makes sense. Like it's got a steadier energy source, so it doesn't need to be in such a rush.
That's a good analogy. It's not quite that simple,
Right.
but you're on the right track. You're getting at the idea that different tumors can have different growth patterns.
Uh-huh.
And this is where Ki67,
Yeah.
along with all those other factors we talked about,
Yeah.
can help paint a more personalized picture of the cancer.
So it's like having a really detailed map instead of just a vague sense of direction.
Right.
It just gives doctors and patients so much more information to work with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of the broader research landscape,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that science is an ongoing process.
Right.
Not every study is going to find the same thing.
Oh, for sure.
For instance, some studies have shown a strong link between Ki67 and age,
Okay.
while the Tehran study, as we discussed,
Right.
found an inverse correlation.
So how do we reconcile those seemingly conflicting findings?
Yeah.
It can be a bit confusing when research results don't always line up perfectly.
It's a really good point, and it speaks to the importance of not just looking at individual studies in isolation,
Okay.
but looking at the bigger picture.
Okay.
Things like study design, the specific patients involved, and even the methods used to analyze the data can all influence the results.
Gotcha.
But even when findings differ, they all contribute to our overall understanding of
Yeah.
cancer's complexities. Each study adds a piece to the puzzle,
Right.
helping us refine our knowledge and get closer to more effective treatments.
And that kind of brings us to what I think is one of the most exciting frontiers in this field,
Yeah.
which is the potential for Ki67 to go beyond just prognosis and actually guide treatment decisions.
Right.
I mean, imagine if we could tailor therapies based on a tumor's Ki67 level.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating area of exploration.
Yeah.
Researchers are investigating whether Ki67 could predict how someone might respond to specific treatments.
Interesting.
It could potentially help us move away from a one-size-fits-all approach to chemotherapy
Right.
and towards more personalized medicine.
That would be incredible. It would be like saying, okay, based on your Ki67 level, we know this therapy is likely to be much more effective for you than that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even beyond that, there's the possibility that Ki67 could guide the development of entirely new targeted therapies,
Wow.
treatments that are designed to specifically attack tumors with certain Ki67 characteristics.
So it's not just about predicting how existing treatments might work,
Right.
but it's also opening up avenues for developing entirely new ones.
Exactly.
That's a powerful prospect. It makes me think about how much progress has been made in cancer research and how much more there is to uncover.
It really is a testament to the power of scientific inquiry. And for the listener,
Yeah.
I think the key takeaway here is about knowledge and empowerment.
Okay.
If you or someone you know is facing a breast cancer diagnosis, understanding markers like Ki67 can help you ask the right questions and have more informed conversations with your healthcare team.
Absolutely. It's about feeling more in control,
Yeah.
even when facing a difficult situation.
Exactly.
And it's a reminder that research is constantly evolving. What we know about Ki67 today is just the beginning. There's so much more to discover. And that's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're on the verge of some major breakthroughs, in how we understand and treat breast cancer.
It is exciting.
It's not just about the size of the tumor anymore,
Right.
or how it looks under a microscope.
Exactly.
We're getting down to like the molecular level,
Huh?
looking at these markers like Ki67 that can tell us so much more.
And that deeper understanding can be so empowering for patients.
Right.
It really allows them to have more meaningful conversations with their doctors and make more informed decisions about their treatment.
It's about moving away from that place of fear and uncertainty to
Exactly.
a place of like knowledge and agency.
Absolutely.
I think that's such an important point.
Yeah.
It's not about becoming a medical expert overnight,
Right.
but it's about having enough information to feel like you are an active participant
Yes.
in your own care.
And knowing that researchers are out there, constantly digging deeper, exploring new possibilities, like using Ki67 to predict treatment response
Right.
or even develop new therapies.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives me so much hope for the future.
Hope is crucial.
Yeah.
And so is staying curious.
Yes.
If today's deep dive has sparked your interest in Ki67 and the future of breast cancer research, I encourage you to keep exploring. There's some fantastic online resources available, and we'll be sure to link to a few in the show notes.
Awesome. So to kind of wrap things up, I think the big takeaway here is that Ki67 is more than just a marker.
It is.
It's like a window into the inner workings of a cancer cell.
Right.
A tool that could revolutionize how we diagnose, treat, and ultimately conquer this disease.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And for anyone listening who's been touched by breast cancer in any way, just remember that you're not alone. There's a whole community of researchers, doctors, and patients all fighting this battle together. And with each new discovery, we get one step closer to a brighter future.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of Ki67 and breast cancer research. Until next time, stay curious.